So, sorry, if it is possible, Prabhu,
Yes.
to repeat the last
Yes.
few sentences.
So in this chapter, Nectar devotion is helping us understand, and this is not just for outsiders, this is for devotees, practicing devotees. How do we differentiate or know if someone is on the level of bhava bhakti, is actually an ecstatic devotee on that level, and someone who is not on that level and being considered on that level? So it doesn't even have to be a pretender, but the point is, how do we identify the genuine devotee on the genuine stage of bhava, in contrast to someone who is not there? And that may be easy because they're not there, it's obvious, but especially in the case of a so-called ecstatic pretender, someone who's pretending to be like them, it becomes even harder to distinguish between the two. And just recently, actually, someone was mentioning this to me, that, well, how do we know if, like, this person I want to, take shelter of, are they on the level of bhava or not? Are they on the level of prema or not? How can I understand who is more advanced and who's less advanced? So this chapter helps us know for certain by real symptoms how to do that. Bhava is spiritual and independent of matter, but manifests at this time in the body of the devotee so that he can experience the spiritual world. It appears through the mental functions and replaces the mind. Through self-manifesting. Though self-manifesting, it appears to arise by the mind, though it does not. Bhava is a taste for Krishna, but it also produces more taste for Krishna and ecstatic symptoms. Bhava is a taste for Krishna, but it also produces more taste for Krishna and ecstatic symptoms. So, one of the effects of bhava bhakti, ecstatic love for Krishna, is someone starts to roll on the ground in ecstasy and tears come down his eyes. Now, that symptom someone else can imitate. And this is how they do it. I actually know, someone actually mentioned to me the exact process that they saw. That there'll be some great performance, some great kirtan or some, lecture that they will be giving. And before the lecture, they will take these dried chilies, the red chili, and they'll stick it in their nose. Like they'll put one chili in each nose. And if you put chilies in your mouth or nose anywhere, right, it's really hot. It's really and that causes tears to come out, right? So someone could do that, and then the tears are coming down their eyes. And then we're thinking they have bhava. This other devotee was also crying when he was mentioning the pastimes of Krishna, and this devotee is also crying and he's mentioning the pastimes of Krishna. So that is a quality that can be imitated. But now these are qualities that cannot be imitated. These are reliable symptoms of bhava bhakti. One can neither imitate nor conceal these symptoms. And just recently, actually, I was thinking about this, that how it is precisely the activities of the devotee, the activities themselves, that communicate the advancement of a devotee. You think, well, he's doing this, but is he advanced? But no, if he is doing it, that means he's advanced. And obviously not just for a short while, but continuously, regularly, because the activity itself cannot be, these activities cannot be feigned. So avyartha kalatvam is the first one. Never wasting time, but always engaged in devotional service. Kshanti, to remain tolerant and patient, even amid great disturbance. Virakti, indifference to objects of sense gratification. And mana, shunyata, pridelessness. Mana shunyata, pridelessness. So Someone can feign tears coming down their eyes, but no one can feign avyartha kalatvam, never wasting time, but always engage in devotional service. Because if someone is interested in getting the honor and respect of being a great devotee, then then they will spend time on their self-aggrandizement, right? They will have a desire to, revel in their opulence as, a famous person, a great devotee, wealthy person, whatever they're after through that. They won't be able to exhibit this quality of avyartha kalatvam. If at the very minimum, what they'll do is they'll take, proper sleep, right? If someone is wanting to enjoy their senses, the most basic enjoyment that we have is like to sleep. And when you're tired and when you need to sleep, the only thing that you want to sleep is like sometimes, you'll tell your family members that I don't care, just let me sleep, right? It's so basic of a thing. So such a person who's not on the level of bhava will sleep, 7, 8 hours a day. They'll relax, at least take the pleasure of sleeping, even if they are, leading a life of a monk, a sadhu on the side, but they'll still go in their hermitage and sleep. But one who's on the level of bhava does not even like to sleep, because that's a waste of time. He thinks, I could be serving Krishna right now. Sleep is like death. And that's why Prabhupada didn't like sleep. He would sleep 2 or 3 hours a day. And he would say, sleep is like death. Why should I sleep? At night, I can be translating these books. My own Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, that was number one quality of him, is that he just wouldn't sleep. Like the servants who were traveling with him would get so exasperated that Maharaj, why don't you sleep? uh, even if he had such a busy schedule, he would be giving 3 to 4 programs a day. He was making 100 calls a day. He would meet 300 people a day. He would write emails and letters, and then he would read, and then he would chant. He would do his 2 hours of puja every day. But then finally he would get on a flight, on a plane, and on the plane, you're just on a plane. You can't make phone calls, you can't have meetings. And so devotees would think that at least he will sleep at this time, right? And the way a plane moves also, you immediately fall asleep if you're tired. But even there, he would be in the best, situation conducive to taking some rest. But even there, he didn't want to close his eyes. He would sit and chant. And he would chant the whole way. If it was a 6-hour flight, we would think, well, he's more interested in management. That's why he's managing all day, not chanting. No, then we would see that actually how much sacrifice he was doing. He wanted to just chant. That was like the greatest gratification for his mind, is just to chant, for his heart, for his soul. But due to tolerance, due to his selflessness, he would be preaching. But then when he got the time and he was on a flight, then he would be like, okay, I can chant. And no, he every day he was finishing his round. He had no rounds left, no reason to chant extra rounds, but he would be chanting the whole way, 6 to 8 hours in that flight, depending on how long the flight is. Maybe taking a brief nap in the middle just to refresh himself. And this is the way the Goswamis were, right? They would sleep 2 hours a day, 1 hour a day. They didn't want to spend a moment. I was just listening to a very beautiful pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat of Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur was chanting in a cave, and he was chanting in a cave, and there's this big snake, very vicious, poisonous snake that was, also living in the cave. And so this snake would emit poison. And so the whole cave was like filled with fumes coming from this. It was a somewhat celestial snake. And so the devotees who came to visit Haridas Thakur, they came to Haridas Thakur and they said that you should take some uh, uh, that he will take some. The devotees came to Haridas Thakur and said, "Please leave this cave because we come here to chant with you, and we start to choke on the poison. We can't come and take your association." They're telling Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur, he tells them that I understand your difficulty. Don't talk about this anymore because we don't want to waste any time in useless talk. If by tomorrow the snake does not leave, then I will leave this place. This is my promise to you. And he starts chanting again. And what was so key is that Haridas Thakur tells them, don't don't think about this anymore because you're wasting your time. Just chant the holy name of Krishna. And so uh, the devotees, they sit back down quietly and, okay, well, I mean, it's like a huge problem if there's a big snake just sitting next to you, right? And they're just praying to Krishna within their mind, thinking of Govinda, please protect me. And about a few minutes later, that snake comes slithering out and it leaves that cave. It just leaves the cave. So this is the great devotees, that they are never wasting a single moment. And then that leads to the second quality, Shanti, to remain tolerant and patient, even amid great disturbance. Very interesting that it says tolerant and patient, because part of tolerance is patience. Like over time, things get resolved and clarified. The next one is virakti, indifference to objects of sense gratification. So virakti is indifference. We must be indifferent to objects of sense gratification. Like, for a devotee, it's not that it's good or bad. It's just like material life and material things and, um, material objects and possessions are just uninteresting for a devotee. They're just uninterested by it. Indifference. And mana shunyata, pridelessness. The devotee has no pride. And, we're all working on that, right? Very difficult to give up pride because we have pride as a devotee, that I'm a great devotee. And then we have pride as a non-devotee, that I'm a big person, right? So in both aspects, there's pride, and getting rid of it is hard. So these are the qualities of one on the level of bhava. And these are things that one cannot feign for a long period of time. You can do it for a short period of time, right? For a short period of time, we can join the temple, live in the temple, and never waste a single moment for 1 week. Always remain tolerant, always indifferent, Hare Krishna Prabhu, offering obeisance. We can do it for a short period of time. But in the long run, right, over the long period of time, we won't be able to do it if we're not actually on that level. And long period of time means even 6 months, right? 6 months one can do it, but more than 6 months. After that, the honeymoon period, right? They say it goes away. Then can we do it? And if someone does it, that is an exhibition of the level of bhava. Right? They're showing the level of bhava. One more pastime of Haridas Thakur. So this is a pastime Haridas Thakur showing these two qualities. And then in another case, one time there's a snake charmer. It also has to do with snakes. So there's a snake charmer, and the snake charmer was playing his flutes, and he had like this basket with the snakes in it, and the basket had like a handle that had a peacock, like this. So the snake charmers, they are very good at charming the snakes with flutes. Very effective. Actually, I was living in Florida some time back, and there they have a big problem with pythons, and no one is able to kill them. they're not local. Someone brought them from Burma, Burmese python, and left two in the forest. And they've expanded to tens of thousands of snakes. And they eat everything. Pythons, they eat by squeezing you, and so they eat every animal, and the whole forests are emptying out because the snakes are there. They have no predator. And so they're expanding in number. They're eating and, having 100 children, and all the other animals are dying. So they brought all these, top scientists, how to get rid of the Burmese python. And the problem is that if they put poison out there, then the other animals also eat that poison and they'll die. So it's a very difficult problem because it has to be a poison that kills them but doesn't kill other animals. And they weren't able to find something like this because they're such tough creatures, these Burmese python. Then that didn't work, so they brought in the best hunters, and they do competitions that every summer you're free to go and hunt these Burmese pythons, and the number that you do, you get an award. But the hunters also, like, they couldn't catch so many, they couldn't kill so many of them. So the ranger there was telling us that finally what worked, and this he is telling to the whole group, not just to me. Finally what worked is they said, we brought a group of snake charmers from India. And they actually had the greatest success among all of them. They were able to charm the snakes and bring them all together. And then once they brought them together, then they killed them. Can you imagine? So the snake charmer, and when Haridas Thakur hears this flute and sees the peacock, he immediately gets ecstasy, very common amongst associates of devotees, that if something was there that they thought that Krishna's there for one moment, oh, they saw a peacock, that oh, Krishna's there, playing the flute. Then he went into a swoon of ecstasy and he started dancing around, twirling around and dancing, and tears are flowing down his eyes. Haridas Thakur's physical form was very beautiful. He had, like Lord Chaitanya, long arms, lotus eyes. And so everyone comes and they just, are watching this amazing exhibition of ecstatic love. And after he falls to the ground unconscious, and then he wakes up, and when he does, then everyone there is worshiping him and offering him service. So one Brahmana there, he sees Haridas Thakur dancing like this, and everyone after that worshiping him. And so he thinks, if Haridas Thakur can do this, then I'll also do it. And if I dance like this, then everyone will start worshiping me also. So the next time the snake charmer plays his flute, the Brahman comes and he starts to twirl around and howl and fall to the ground. And Krishna is a super soul in everyone's heart, right? And so when this happens, everyone else is like, looking at him, something's happened. But no one's heart is moved, right? Because it's a show. Furthermore, somehow within the heart, Krishna inspires the snake charmer to become angry at this Brahmana. And remember, this is the Brahmana, he's just a snake charmer. And so the snake charmer takes a stick from the ground and he chases this Brahmana and he starts to beat him. And the Brahmana is like, stop beating. And then he runs away. And so then he comes back, the snake charmer, and the Brahmana comes back and he asks the snake charmer, he says that just yesterday, Haridas Thakur was dancing in ecstasy to your singing, to your flute playing, and you worshipped him. And today I did it and you're beating me with a stick. Why is it that in one case you're worshiping him and in this case you're beating with a stick? And to this, the snake charmer, again inspired by the Lord within his heart. It says Anantashesh within the heart. The snake charmer tells him that I could understand that you were just an imitator. You were imitating, but Haridas Thakur is genuine. And that's why the Lord inspired me from within the heart to take the stick and beat you with it. So the point being that Haridas Thakur's ecstasy of love of God could be imitated by this snake charmer. But what could not be imitated was Haridas Thakur's constant absorption in the holy name of Krishna. Even if, that snake charmer was not so inspired by the Lord, one could get confused by looking at these two Brahmanas, Brahman and Haridas Thakur, who is the genuine one. That could be imitated, the dancing, the tears coming to the eyes. But this Brahmana was not able to chant 300,000 names a day. They're not able to do that. And thus, if a devotee is acting on that level continuously, then they are at that level. Another one, Asha Bandha, firm faith that Krishna will deliver one to the highest perfection, even though one feels low and utterly unqualified to achieve it on his own. Samutkantha, eagerness for achieving pure loving service. So they're so eager for more service. One time someone told my Guru Maharaj that you are now so ill, you are elderly. Why don't you take some rest? Please don't travel so much. Please sleep more. Don't sleep so less. That every doctor he met would say, you're so healthy. Your only thing is that you just need more rest. And so they would say, can you just take more rest? And he would say, please don't take away my privilege to serve Srila Prabhupada. To the concern and the request that he takes rest, his response would be, please don't take away my privilege to serve Srila Prabhupada. So though they're serving so much, though they are serving, we are not serving, but the Bhava Bhakta is serving, they have the eagerness to serve Krishna more. And they have firm confidence that the Lord will take them. That's Asha Bandha. Hope against hope, even though there's no hope, because they're feeling themselves fallen. So how can they think that, oh, I'm going to go back home, back to Godhead? So it's both things. This is both emotions simultaneously, where they're thinking, I have no hope. Yet because they're so much in love with Krishna and they have so much, they truly know Krishna as their dearest friend, they have firm faith that even though I'm completely unqualified, hope against hope, Krishna will take me. Nama Gana Sadaruchi. And here we go. This is that quality that we saw in Haridas Thakur and in the devotees of the Lord. Constant attraction to chanting Hare Krishna. Asakti stad guna khyane. Addiction to glorifying Krishna's qualities. Addiction to glorifying Krishna's qualities. This is maybe the most visible quality in these advanced devotees. And here we're so fortunate. We see this quality in His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj. That, I mean, one day, something fell on his foot, on his toe, and he got a fracture. He went to the doctor. Sorry, he got the fracture, and then some of the disciples or devotees are doctors, and so they immediately tested it, and yes, it was a fracture. And so they put his foot into a cast. There was just something like a real basic one, not the real cast, just a real basic one. And that evening, Maharaj had a program, a home program. And he came and gave the class with a fractured foot. And I've had a fracture, so I know how painful it is. It's so painful. And then during the class, Maharaj mentioned that we didn't know that his foot was fractured. It was very like, it was just like I said, a small kind of bandage. Later on, we found out. But he was saying that when we're addicted to glorifying Krishna's pastimes, we'll glorify it even if we have a smashed toe. And he never, he never says things like that because he never glorifies himself. He never mentions anything about himself. And the thing is, he knew that his audience didn't know, but he was practicing that. And that's called addiction to glorifying Krishna's pastimes, right? And it's just so amazing. Like every day without fail, day after day, every day he will give a class. Like sometimes you personally, well, you need a break. And on weekends, two classes. And each one, there's a whole PowerPoint. Each one is prepared. Each one is like fully, like every class is something you could hear 10 times, right? It's so deep. So this is addiction to glorifying Krishna's qualities. Another example is His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Just like the katha never ends, it just goes on and on. So day after day. So this is the qualities of great devotees of the Lord. Priti stad vasati stale, attachment for living in the dham. Right? So they have great attachment to living in the dham. His Holiness Aindra Prabhu was like that, right? So attached, and all of them are, and they're living in the dham, and the only reason they live outside of the dham is for preaching. And His Holiness Kadam Makanan Maharaj one time said this in a class. I heard it. He said that um, sometimes he said people ask me, is Belgium better, Maharaj, or is India better, or is America better? Like, where do you like it better? And he said, there's no place in this world that I call home other than Vrindavan. He says, there's no nice place in this world. The only reason we live outside of Vrindavan is because we need to preach. But please be clear, because Indian devotees ask, should I go to America? And Belgium, Europe is so nice. Oh, London is so nice. New York is horrible, but New York is so nice. Whatever. But we think all these places so nice. He says every place is unlivable for a devotee except for Vrindavan. Vrindavan is our only home. And the only reason we're outside of it and we're living anywhere else in the world is to fulfill Prabhupada's instruction of preaching all over the world. So that we see the attachment for the Dham. That is true attachment. If a devotee was interested in their own aggrandizement, they would buy a penthouse in London and stay there. But that they won't be able to hide, right? They can do ecstatic symptoms, but they'll want that house in London. But a true devotee will not want anything outside of Vrindavan, only living in Vrindavan Dham. So now I've discussed these. We'll just go through the slides. It'll be a quick overview. We'll go through these. So utilizing one's time. Srila Prabhupada, these are the qualities of bhava. So these are the characteristics of someone on bhava bhakti. You'll see the nectar devotion. This is why we're spending so much time on them, because these are Prabhupada mentioned these in many different places, and as you can see, there's a very inspiring meditations and inspirations for us on how to reach this stage, right? Which is impossible in one way for us, but it's possible by the mercy of the devotee. So utilizing one's time. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada were examples of this, perfect examples, never wasted a moment. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 11 children, or 9 children, and still he wrote more books than even sannyasis wrote, who had no children, no family, no job. He was a high court judge. How is it possible? Utilizing one's time. And I realized that in my own life, like there's actually so much time. Most of it we waste. But there's no shortage of time. There's actually so much you can do in 1 hour, but we waste most of it. Perseverance. Example given is of Maharaj Parikshit waiting for death on the bank of the Ganges, and all the while hearing Shrimad Bhagavatam. Detachment. The example is given of Maharaj Bharat giving up his family. So how do we know that Bharat Maharaj was on the stage of bhava? Not by his ecstatic symptoms of tears coming down his eyes, but we know it by what he did. He was described the king of the whole world. There's no other king besides him. He was the emperor of the whole world. He was in perfect health. He had the most beautiful, perfect family. He had a treasury equal to that of Indra. But when the age of 50 came and his son was grown enough, at that moment, Bharat Maharaj leaves all of it. Can you imagine? Like you had the perfect everything. You're riding on white horses with a castle and no health problems. You're still young, intelligent, fully sane, and you leave all that. He left it and went to the forest just to chant and hear. I mean, that's amazing. That's bhava. He must have been on the level of bhava. And specifically, the Bhagavatam mentions that he leaves it because he left it like one leaves stool after passing it. Right? So it wasn't like he left it and it was like a long decision or there was something pain in his heart after leaving it. But just like when we pass stool, we have no attachment to it, right? We don't have to think whether or not we should press the flush button. No, it's like there's no question of giving it up. In the same way, he left his kingdom. So that was his realization, his attraction to Krishna, that due to which he was able to give up that with effortlessly. There are two types of detachment, vairagya and virakti. Before one achieves the stage of bhava, he may be able to manifest vairagya. He can keep himself forcibly separated from the objects of sense gratification and thus control his senses. At the stage of bhava, however, one manifests a superior type of detachment. This superior detachment is virakti, wherein one completely loses all taste for the objects of the senses. This is the point. Thus, his senses remain entirely controlled, even if he is directly in the midst of sense objects. So this is the distinction between vairagya and virakti. Vairagya is detachment, and vairagya is detachment where one pushes oneself, but virakti is where there's no taste for it. And that's what Bharat Maharaj had. There's just no attraction for it. Pricelessness. King Bhagirath was the emperor above all other kings. Yet he developed such ecstatic love for Krishna that he became a mendicant and went out begging, even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. He was so humble that he respectfully bowed down before them. Right? King Bhagirath was the emperor above all other kings, yet he developed such ecstatic love for Krishna that he became a mendicant and went out begging, even to the homes of his political enemies. Like political enemies are sometimes the hardest to like. Because if someone like does something to you, you can like forgive them. But political enemies, it's like, they really it's like your whole sense of self is connected with that they're it's very difficult to to people laugh at you. It's infamy, right? And Krishna says in the Gita, dishonor is worse than death for a kshatriya, for a king. And he's true, but that's on a different level. That's Krishna's instructions on the level of someone who's in the modes of nature. And at that time, Arjuna's acting like that. He's taking that role by Krishna's arrangement. So Krishna's giving that instruction that don't let infamy come to you because it's worse than death. However, then Krishna speaks of the higher principle so many times later in the Gita that a person is undisturbed in honor and dishonor, that a pure devotee, a devotee of the Lord, or one in knowledge is undisturbed by honor and dishonor, fame and infamy. So on one hand, he says infamy is worse than death, but then he says actually a self-realized soul, what to speak of death, isn't even disturbed by honor and dishonor, infamy and praise. So if that's the case, then how can it be worse than death? Well, an advanced devotee is undisturbed by it, but one in the modes of nature is disturbed by it. So both are true depending on which level a devotee is at. And this is why Krishna in the Gita, he speaks at different levels. at different times for different devotees. So here is the bhava bhaktas, right? These are the qualities given for those who are about to achieve prema, and these qualities are also possessed by the devotees who have prema. So actually, I should make that very clear that the devotees that I'm speaking about and that here is being given an example of, they may be at the level of prema. We are speaking of them in the context of bhava because these are the characteristics. But someone who's on the level of prema also has these characteristics. But all this is saying is that they're at least on the level of bhava. So a devotee on this level makes no difference between enemies and friends. They will be so humble that they will offer obeisances even to their enemies. And that is the quality of a great devotee. Great hope. Asha bandha, right? Hope against hope. I have no love for Krishna, nor for the causes of developing love of Krishna, namely hearing and chanting. And the process of bhakti yoga by which one is always thinking of Krishna and fixing his lotus feet in the heart is also lacking in me. As far as philosophical knowledge or pious works are concerned, I don't see any opportunity for me to execute such activities. But above all, I am not even born of a nice family. Therefore, I must simply pray to you, Gopijana Vallabha, Krishna, maintainer and beloved of the gopis. I simply wish and hope that some way or other I may be able to approach your lotus feet. And this hope is giving me pain because I think myself quite incompetent to approach that transcendental goal of life. So beautiful, so nice. So the only hope I have is that some way or the other I may be able to approach your lotus feet. And that Ramanujacharya, he speaks about that as prapatti. My only hope is that I may somehow be able to surrender. Because I have no taste for chanting and hearing. I have no love for you. But the only thing I can do is maybe surrender to you. And that's my hope, that I just surrender. And surrender means hearing and chanting. But the point is that this is why our process in ISKCON and Prabhupada's process always was that, his disciples were just trying to please Prabhupada, right? They could have been, just hearing and chanting 6 to 8 hours a day, and that would have been very nice. But given our level and our inability to do that, they were hearing and chanting, most importantly, hearing and chanting, but also surrendering their life to Prabhupada, because that is really our only hope, that by your mercy, I will be able to approach you by surrendering to you. Then eagerness for achieving the desired success. Bilvamangala Thakur, in his book Krishna Karnamrita, writes, I am eagerly waiting to see that boy of Vrindavan, whose bodily beauty is captivating the whole universe, whose eyes are always bounded by black eyebrows and expanded like lotus petals, and who is always eagerly glancing over his devotees, and therefore moving slightly here and there. His eyes are always moist. His lips are colored like copper, and through those lips there comes a sound, vibration, which drives one madder than a mad elephant. I want so much to see him at Vrindavan. So nice, huh? So wonderful. attachment to chanting the holy names. O Lord Govinda, the girl who is the daughter of King Rishabhanu, Srimati Radharani, is now shedding tears, and she is anxiously chanting your holy name, Krishna, Krishna. So we had read how Rupa Goswami um, compiles all the verses from different scriptures. He brings in so many verses. Most of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is not written by Rupa Goswami. It is verses from all over the place that he brings in, because he wants to give evidence for every point that he makes. And so all of these were verses that we are reading that he drew to show that these are known to be bhava or prema bhaktas, right? To show that these devotees have these qualities. See, it's so scientific. This is why Prabhupada called Nectar of Devotion the science of devotional service, because he's going, like a database. Here's all the great devotees, and these are the qualities according to the verses of the scriptures. So here it's now describing what is Srimati Radharani's amazing qualities, and he's pointing out, and generally we don't think of that, right? It's like this verse kind of came as a shock to me, because we don't think about, as an example of chanting Krishna's holy names, we give Srimati Radharani's example. Like you give Haridas Thakur's example, Lord Chaitanya, all these people. But like we think of Srimati Radharani and Krishna like in terms of rasa dance, these things. But here he's confirming that her main business also is chanting Krishna's names. Why? Because she's always missing Krishna. And someone who is truly in separation of Krishna will always chant Krishna's names, because that's the only thing that alleviates the separation from Krishna. And thus, if someone is continuously chanting Krishna's holy names, we can understand that they must be feeling separation from Krishna. Otherwise, they would not be able to do that. They must be feeling separation from Krishna. And that's why they're chanting continuously. So this is her amazing quality, that she's always chanting Krishna's names. Eagerness to describe the glories of the Lord. Krishna Karnamrita says, what shall I do for Krishna, who is pleasing beyond all pleasurable conceptions, and who is naughtier than all restless boys? The idea of Krishna's beautiful activities is attracting my heart, and I do not know what I can do. So nice, huh? So um, Rupa Goswami also said that, let me have millions of tongues and millions of ears to glorify Krishna, because with this one tongue and ear, what can I say or do? And this actually one can feel in the presence of these great souls, that one tongue is not enough. Like there's so much to say about Krishna, so many pastimes here and there. Like we have now His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj's books. It's like we have the books, where do you even get time to start it? We have Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have Chaitanya Bhagavat, we have Bhagavatam, we have Gita. With one set of eyes or one set of ears or one tongue, we don't have time. So we need millions of them. And even then, it's not possible. Attraction for living in a place of the Lord's pastimes. Vidyavali. In this place, the son of Maharaj Nanda used to live with his father, who was king of all coward men. In this place, Lord Krishna broke the cart in which the Shakatasura demon was concealed. At this place, Damodar, who can cut the knot of our material existence, was tied up by his mother Yashoda. So devotee again is so in love with Krishna that the place, Krishna's place, becomes so dear to him. In this place, the Lord did this. In this place, the Lord did this. It is this place. So how could this place not be the only place where I want to reside? In this place is referring to all the same places, Vrindavan, the Dham. It's referring to the same place. Yeah, maybe slightly different places within the Dham. But the point is, this is the place where this happened, this happened, this happened. So how special this place is, how worshipable this place is. And so this is Dham, right? Attraction to living in the Dham. Now we've covered all the different qualities of one who is genuinely on the stage of bhava. But recently someone was asking actually but what about the ecstatic symptoms that appear in a new devotee who's not pretending, a sincere devotee who's new, and sometimes they feel ecstatic, like is they're like, I just felt Lord Chaitanya there, like it was something really amazing. I just felt ecstasy inside, right? I remember one time we went to a prison program in Boise, Idaho. It's our first prison program. And, like we do college preaching, we do Indian preaching, like home programs, and we do going to senior homes or schools and prasadam distribution. But prison preaching is something that not many devotees do because your criminals are there and this and that. You need to get all the approvals to go in. And many prisoners are there because of circumstance. They're not really criminals. They made a mistake. And, they might be in prison because they did some financial, they cheated on their tax returns. So they're not like criminals. They're just like they cheated. They got greedy and they cheated. So different types of people are there, but some people are very, heavy people also. So devotees don't go generally. We were scared to go, but that time there was a devotee who was an officer, like not a guard, but he was working in the prison. And because he was there, it was arranged we went for this prison program, and which became a regular program. But the first program that happened there, it was in the prison, right? Like, it was like, very kind of heavy, strict atmosphere. But we started with kirtan. And the prisoners, they themselves, you could see they're just dying for it, like they're day after day. I mean, they're just in a room, right? I mean, anyone coming, anything is just. But then they were chanting, and you could see they're just feeling it, like going so, like soaking it in, because they're materially in so much distress. They were hungry for spiritual life, and they're humble also because they're in prison, right? And so they're in that mood. They're just like, some of them at least were praying to God, you could see. And so we did the kirtan, and as we're doing the kirtan, it was just the most ecstatic kirtan ever. And after the program, a few devotees, they were telling you, like, did you feel Lord Chaitanya's presence there? You actually, it was like so. And then that other devotee saying, I was just about to come and ask you this question. Did you feel Lord Chaitanya's presence there? And the third devotee, did you feel, like three devotees not talking to each other, not, being influenced by one another, at the same time, literally right after the program ended and left the prison, they're saying, did you feel Lord Chaitanya's presence there? When normally those same devotees, because they could be, followed in another circumstance, weren't saying that. So you could see, the prayers of the prisoners, their earnestness actually brought the Lord's presence. And the devotees preaching there also felt some ecstatic symptoms for a few moments. So what about those who are not on the level of bhava? Here Rupa Goswami is asking. Yet they're genuine devotees and they may experience something. How can they experience it? Just on this point of the prisoners, today's actually a lot of stories and nice things coming to mind. The topic is such. Haridas Thakur, again a story of Haridas Thakur, and they all connect with him. It's amazing. When he gets uh, uh, arrested by the Qazi, then first he's taken to the prison. And when he's taken to the prison, then at that time, many of the prisoners were devotees because the Qazi was a Muslim and he had incarcerated other, devotees like he was incarcerating Haridas Thakur. But these were like normal devotees, not Haridas Thakur, who was such a great devotee. They were pious people, maybe pious Hindus or whatnot. And for some things, some small thing, they were put into prison. And so when Haridas Thakur came, the prisoners thought, now is the moment. A pure devotee has come. Our fortune has changed. And this is the way we should feel when we are about to go and meet a devotee or when all that we should feel that our fortune has changed by the association of a devotee. We've become fortunate. And so Haridas Thakur came in the prison house and they all fell at his feet. And when they fell at his feet, then they said, please give us a blessing. Please bless us. And Haridas Thakur's response to them was, what? Who knows? What does Haridas Thakur respond to them? He says, my blessing to you is, may you remain in the position that you are. And the prisoners, um, they got so disturbed. They're like, we were just hoping to get out of the prison, and you're a great saintly soul, and you're blessing us to stay in the prison. And Haridas Thakur immediately could understand their mind. And he said, let me clarify. I'm blessing you to stay in the same consciousness, in the state, meaning the state of mind that you are now. Because he said, right now, since you're in the prison, you are always praying to Krishna. You're not trying to enjoy material life. You're always praying to Krishna. You're like the most serious devotees on the planet. And that's success. And I want you to leave the prison, but only if you stay in that same consciousness. Because right now you're in the most fortunate situation. So this was the experience of those prisoners. Like this is the Shastric actually basis reference for it. That yes, those prisoners were probably, uh, praying to God. Like if a God is there, then please save us. Please take us out of here. Like they say, there's no atheist in the fox's hole. At war, also soldiers, they say, it's a time in life where, even if you don't know, you say, if someone's there and they're hearing us, please take us out. And so they're earnestly praying, and that brought this. So how is it that a new devotee can get these feelings? This is called reflective ecstasy, chaya bhav. Can appear in someone who approaches the Lord with ulterior motives, as in wanting liberation. These prisoners, they wanted to get liberated from their prison. And the desire was so intense that they're praying to the Lord intensely, and therefore Krishna liberates them. Right? That's reflective ecstasy. Simply by the association of such pure devotees, the moon-like rays from their hearts reflect on him, and by the influence of the pure devotees, he may show some likeness of attachment. But how does this come? This didn't come in the prisoners when the devotees didn't come. When the devotees weren't there, then maybe they're struggling, they're angry, once in a while praying to God. But they got that experience, and the devotees got that experience by the association of devotees. When the devotees came and chanted, they were able to reflect their bhava into the heart of a devotee in that association. So that's why it's called reflective ecstasy, because it's not our ecstasy, it's not our true experience, but it's being reflected by someone who has it. So by definition, it must come in the association of devotees. And that's why we feel so good when we are in the presence of pure devotees, because their heart is reflecting that love. And then we feel that bhava for that time period. And then because we're conditioned, when we go out, again, we're in Maya and, the whole thing starts again. What about seeming ecstatic symptoms that appear in non-devotees or beginners? Okay, so actually I was using the wrong term. This is Chaya Bhav. This one was reflective is, I'm forgetting the term for this one. This is reflective ecstasy. So this is, but this also is non-devotees. So I have to check that maybe. Such shadow attachment or para attachment can develop. So shadow ecstasy can appear in someone who is more innocent, doing service out of curiosity or for social reasons. Like someone who comes to a Janmashtami festival and just comes there because Janmashtami, you're supposed to go. But the atmosphere there is so glorious, they start to feel ecstasy in that presence of the Lord and the devotees. Such shadow attachment or para attachment can develop if one associates with a pure devotee or visits holy places like Vrindavan or Mathura. So that's also the effect of the dham. Many of you may have experienced that. You go to the dham and you get some special gift that you did not deserve, right? And it may have been in the association of some great exalted soul, or just standing in front of Radha Shyama Sundar, and you're just thinking there's nothing in the world that matches this. What about seeming ecstatic symptoms that appear in non-devotees or beginners? Both come from the mature ecstasy of a pure devotee. Reflective ecstasy is more intense, like a reflection is more bright and clear than a shadow. But shadow ecstasy is termed transcendental when the person feels some relief from material pangs and desires. So here's the difference. So, most of us is shadow. We just feel that relief, that love, and reflective ecstasy is more intense. It's more clear. So the difference was not in who experiences it, but the difference is in the intensity of the experience. About seeming ecstatic symptoms, see, and this one is ecstatic symptoms. So for some time you get some ecstatic symptom that's reflective ecstasy, and this is seeming, like it's not even an ecstatic symptom, but it's something that's just very uplifting. Okay, what about seeming ecstatic symptoms that appear in non-devotee beginners? Just as shadow or reflective ecstasy comes from association with pure devotees, so by an offense to the devotee, one's attachment can become almost nil. Right? So it's all the devotee, and that's why spiritual life is the razor's edge, because that's the hardest part for us in spiritual life, right? Is how do we deal with devotees? Everything else is easy, right? If we can soak in the association and appreciate the association, we get bhava. If it becomes unfortunately offensive or that, then it becomes nil. Real bhava in a beginner, if it is seen that a person has developed a high standard of devotion without having undergone even the regulated principles, it is to be understood that his status of devotional service was achieved in a formal life. For some reason or other, it has been temporarily stopped, most probably by an offense committed at the lotus feet of a devotee. Right? So we were discussing just recently that how is it that that these devotees that we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think in this class, last time we were discussing, that they immediately develop love for Krishna, like by kripa or by sadhana, however, by good fortune causeless mercy. And with most of these devotees, you actually see that in their last life or some previous lives, they were someone special. So on one hand, it's like, how are they so lucky and I'm unlucky? On the other hand, you see, well, they were also preparing for it and making an effort in previous lifetimes. So that's why if in this lifetime one makes very rapid advancement, one can understand that in their previous lifetime, they were already on the path, and for some reason, they temporarily stopped. And now in this lifetime, it's come again. A wonderful example is Jad Bharat, right? Jad Bharat in that lifetime had no qualification, external qualification to get Bhava Bhakti. He was not in the association of pure devotees. He was born in a pious Brahmin family, but his father is not a pure devotee. He's a Brahmana who's trying to teach him Vedic rituals. But how is it that he immediately developed ecstatic love? Because in his previous life, he was Bharat Maharaj. Well, he was a deer, and then he was Bharat Maharaj. Same thing with Jagai and Madhai, that they were Jai and Vijay. Of course, Lord Nityananda's mercy can liberate anyone, but why them? Because there was some history to them also in that way. There's some connection, I would say. There's also there's another wonderful example. Just recently, we were talking about. There's some example of there's this. Yeah, it'll come. So many of the associates and devotees of the Lord, they had some history of previous lives where they had developed Krishna consciousness. And that's why the key thing is we always just need to be making progress. It's not so important whether or not we reach the goal in that lifetime, but we must make progress. It's important, very important we reach the goal, but see, in the next life, we may continue it. But if we're not progressing, then we leave Krishna consciousness, then that's a great loss. Even at the stage of bhava, a person may apparently have some faults that are the last remaining traces of sinful reactions. Such should be overlooked as one ignores the spots on the moon. So sometimes we get confused because we think such an advanced devotee, but what they did is not right. I saw it. They didn't do this right. Such an advanced devotee, but they did not do right. So how can both go together? And here it's being explained that yes, they're advanced. Somehow I'm in the situation that the one negative quality that they have is being, is in connection with me. And that's why I'm seeing it or I'm experiencing the effect of it. But that small fault can be overlooked. Of course, if it's a big one, we cannot, right? It needs to be maybe addressed. But if we see some pride, for example, on the level of bhava, on one hand, we say they're prideless. But if we see some feeling of, pride or some feeling of possessiveness, then we can understand that there's some spots, even the moon has some spots, some attachment maybe they had, or some experience they had that, really kind of made their emotions go in a certain way where now they're a little possessive or something, then we could overlook it. And if we don't overlook it, it may turn into an offense because they are so spiritually advanced, right? And that's a big thing in our spiritual life that we miss. And we were on last Wednesday in our Krishna book reading, we were talking about this, that how Lord Brahma, he's such a great personality, right? I mean, he is a Bhava Bhakta. He saw Krishna face to face. He performed austerities for like 1,000,000 years. Austerities means devotional service. He's meditating on Krishna for 1,000,000 years. If we did that, we hope we would become advanced. So he'll be advanced. Yet he becomes attracted to his daughter. He becomes attracted to his daughter. And when he becomes attracted to his daughter, then he starts to run after her. And when he runs after her, then the 6 demigods, they start to laugh at him. And because of that, they were the 6 sons of Devaki. and they were killed first before Krishna came. And though Brahma's fault, they became at fault. I mean, this is a big thing. He's running after his daughter. But though he is at fault, they became at fault. Why? Because they were laughing at a very, very great devotee. They could have, soberly tried to stop it or something, whatever, but they were laughing. And that was not their adhikar. And thus, they had to take a birth and be punished because of that. Brahma is the source of our tradition, our acharya, especially in insulting the acharya or the advanced devotee or any devotee. We have to be very careful. And so then Krishna shows in his pastimes that first this was a Vaishnava aparadh, right? And that the offenses must go, then he appears. You think, why 6 sons had to die and then Krishna could come? It sounds inauspicious. Because all the offenses had to go, then Krishna can come. If we offend a devotee, then Krishna cannot come in our heart, in our life. And so very special, devotees' position is very special. And in mature life, we think in terms of right and wrong. It's right or it's wrong. And because we naturally think in that way, when we come to spiritual life, we also tend to think right or wrong. But the problem is when we apply that logic to a devotee, it sometimes doesn't work, because sometimes it's both. It's right and wrong, or wrong and right. And because it doesn't work, then it creates a reaction. And that's why Krishna says in the Gita that even if he performs an abominable activity, he's still considered saintly. Because he knows, this is also Krishna confirming it, that his devotee will make a mistake. Until they're on the level of prema, they can make mistakes, even if they're experiencing bhava. But we cannot offend them for that mistake. We can correct the situation. We have the right to try to fix things, but we should not offend them. Attachment for Krishna is transcendental bliss. Amid unlimited volumes of transcendental bliss, a spot of some material defect cannot act in any way. So why should we not take the spots seriously? Because those spots leave very soon. If that person is engaged in devotional service 24 hours a day, then it's just a matter of time that anartha will be gone. So how can we criticize or offend a devotee for that anartha? A very grave teaching here. Because, we all can think of very great devotees in our movement who made serious mistake, yet they're still established in their greatness. And people have criticized them. We also get a critical mood. But if we do, it becomes a big offense. Or we see that now they transcended it. So that's because of Krishna's mercy. And that is the end. Chapter 19. Next week, we will talk about Prema Bhakti. It's a very special chapter. So we'll be on the last chapter next week. Thank you, everyone. If there's any comments, questions. Bhadra Krishna Prabhu, you can start this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful class as always. I actually have a question from last week. Somebody, I don't know if it was a question or a comment that was referring to Sarva Karana Karanam, that Krishna is the cause of all causes. And I could not clearly understand whether we should consider everything that is happening is because of Krishna, or are we not supposed to take it that way? So that was confusion, and I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly. So if you can clarify on that.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Yes, nice point. So Krishna is the cause of all causes. And one of the things that he has caused is our free will. Right? So Krishna is the cause of everything. And one of those things is our free will. And our free will is Krishna's left it up to us. It's our free will. And that's why he's the cause of everything. Yet our free will is also our responsibility because that's our will. He's caused us to have free will that he doesn't cause. So he's the cause of everything, but he lets our free will to be us. And in that way, we are the cause. So if we do something bad, we are responsible. Krishna is not responsible. Why? Because it was our free will. But Krishna set up the system, so he's responsible for the system. But the system is nice because in this system, he's given us free will. And in the system, he's allowed us to make mistakes and exercise our free will and rectify ourselves. Yes.
And one more question
Yes.
from today's session. You mentioned that we have so many scriptures that we don't have enough time to, read and go through them and understand them. Nor do we have that kind of intelligence that we can understand or interpret all of them. So, should we feel guilty that we are not able to do that, or it's a process that we have to go through and read or understand as much as we can by beginning to read the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and then the other scriptures. So how do we deal with this kind of a situation?
And your question is about deal with the situation of trying to figure out which books to read first?
No.
Sorry, repeat it one more time. I did get a little distracted.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you mentioned that there are so many scriptures
Yes.
available for us, but we don't have enough time. So my question is, should we feel guilty that we are not able to read it, or is it the process that we have to go through? Eventually, whatever we can read, and if we don't have the time, or if we can't complete them, then that's how it is supposed to be.
Yes, Prabhu. So that's the thing about prioritizing, right? So we have to prioritize the scriptures that are most important and then keep working through them, because it's a hard question what you're saying, because Narottam Das Thakur says, and then Srila Prabhupada repeats Narottam Das Thakur, that only when I read the books of the Goswamis will Radha and Krishna's pastimes become manifest. So he's saying that we must read the books of the Goswamis. And our first Goswami is Srila Prabhupada. And so many of our great saints in our movement also say the same thing, like, you have to read these books. So I think as we advance, the eagerness to read them increases. And then Krishna also guides us, read this one in particular, because the books of the Goswamis are almost unlimited. So Prabhupada has given the essence in his books. So if we just read Prabhupada's books, we get it all. At the same time, Krishna and the devotees may indicate that, read this book also, and this will really help you. Read this book also. Once to kind of on the level of Raganuga Bhakti, as we said, to enhance one's particular rasa with Krishna. But I think at this stage we are obliged to read Prabhupada's books, because Prabhupada said that, and devotees say, even if we don't read any other books other than Prabhupada's books, we can go fully back to Godhead. Because he takes the commentaries of Jiva Goswami and all the acharyas, everything, and puts there. But like, there's some books that I really like that were not translated by Prabhupada, but Srila Prabhupada tells us to read them. And like these books, so many of them, and so we can read those books if we like. So I to answer your question, I think it's more of a matter of taste, right? We must read every day, and we must read Prabhupada's books. Whatever else we do, it's a matter of taste, right? Because we cannot do everything. So it's like, okay, what is attracting me? What is not attracting me, but what is inspiring me to become a better devotee?
Thank you, Prabhu. And yesterday I received a message in one of the groups.
Mm.
This is in reference to the same point about reading spiritual books.
Mm.
It's a, and this was an Adventist who was making this statement. He was saying that if you read any spiritual or devotional material, even just for 12 minutes a day,
Mm.
and this and he said that this has been scientifically also proven that it can do a reverse effect on Alzheimer's and other dementia and other such material.
Wow.
I'll forward that video in the group, so uh, and he
Yes, please
said,
do.
yeah, and he said that the scientists are not able to understand how this is happening, and they're not even willing to talk about it because it hurts their ego to a certain extent.
Wow. No, and that's the problem. See, people have stopped reading, and just reading pacifies the mind. It gets in, yeah, so special. So if nothing else, we should read Prabhupada's books to avoid Alzheimer's. This is the way. Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Thank you so much. Another great session and a lot of questions, but I know it's 8:27 at your place. So,
Mm.
yeah. And I had the same question, like, which sequence to be followed. Prabhuji already asked it and you already answered it, that first go with Prabhupada books and then everything else. So thank
Mm.
you for that, Prabhuji.
Yeah, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be like we have to finish all of Prabhupada's books
Strictly,
before.
yeah.
Yeah, like some devotees, for example, they're very attracted to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So they read more, they may read Chaitanya Bhagavat. Others are, they are very attracted to Hariram Chintamani or Madhurya Kadamani. These are very common ISKCON books that devotees read, great devotees do seminars on. But the point is our focus is Prabhupada's books. Yes.
Sure, Prabhuji. Yeah. Coming to my question, basically, Prabhuji, you mentioned about, one thing that you mentioned was which touched me, and there is some incident actually happened here recently, just 1 week ago. It was related to Ati Parichayat Avagya. So,
Mm.
that you mentioned that, after 6 months, are you doing the same thing with that sincerity? So it really touched me. Thank you for that. That was the reflection. And I have a question that how to deal with this mentality of ulterior motive, as we constantly want something even from God, while even mukti should not be asked.
Mm.
So while constantly, like, inside in the heart, I always want something or other thing.
Yes.
So that how to get rid of that wanting attitude or mentality.
Yeah, no, that's the hardest thing. We were reading Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tattvaratena Nirmalam, that all the upadhis need to go, jnana and karma, of fruitive activities. And then same thing we were reading Nectar Devotion, Adya Vilas Shita Shunyam, Jnana Karma. So there's the motivation is what needs to be purified. And by engaging in Krishna's service, we purify the motivation, right? So the more we serve, the more the motivation goes because it forces us. And that's why preaching is so nice, right? Preaching is so nice. One thinks, well, if we preach, we may start to feel ego, but actually preaching makes us more detached because when we preach, then we realize that, who am I doing this for? I'm doing this for Krishna. Because the reality is that when I'm preaching, the reality is no one is really listening to me. No one is really, the same people you're preaching to, they are, they're independent also. They do their own thing. So then why am I doing this? I'm doing this just to please Krishna. It creates detachment. It creates humility in the heart. You realize, like, I have no potency, right? I've been trying to do this is And Prabhupada's potency, look at this, and then someone comes, they hear something, they read something from Prabhupada's books, and their whole life changes. And you see, wow, I'm just here trying to serve Prabhupada, facilitate him. So that motivation gets purified by intentionally trying to avoid it, but even more than our intentions, by engaging in Krishna service. The more we serve, the intention gets purified.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you so much. I have few more questions, but I'll restrict to one, just last
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
So, yeah, we were discussing in our last call where we do homework, and in chapter 17, Prabhuji, we wanted to understand what are the three ways we can achieve Bhava Bhakti. Because when we went through your Divya Bhakti Mataji, please correct me. This is the same question, right? We were asking. And we saw that there are two. One is devotees' mercy and one Krishna's one. Which is the third way that we wanted to understand?
And where does it say there's three ways? I forgot.
In the Bhava Bhakti, I'm going to say chapter 17, where it says, what are the three ways one can achieve Bhava Bhakti?
That's the question. Okay. I
Yeah.
see. Okay. So yes, the third one is, we just covered it right now. Who can say?
Association of devotees.
Very good, but that he covered. So one is the mercy association devotees. The other is the mercy of Krishna. And there's a third.
And I think that the third one is that all of a sudden, like suppose the special mercy comes because of the last karmas or something.
You got it at the end. Because of
Yeah.
past life.
Past life.
Past life. So even that is kind of a trick question, because even the past life is coming because of the mercy of devotee and Krishna. But it's still considered another reason, because sometimes someone like Jad Bharat, that's the example, Jad Bharat, that sometimes one doesn't have the association with devotee at all. One does not have, some association with Krishna. But Bhava is there from very birth, and that's his past life.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you very much for that explanation. Related to reflective ecstasy, was it like Pratibimbit Bhava?
See, I forgot the Sanskrit, so if that's the word, then that may be it, Pratibimba. Yes, that makes sense, because that's reflection. Chaya is shadow. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes. Shalja Mataji?
Very bold, Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you for the
Krishna.
wonderful class, as always. Today you touched on, and I know you've done it a few times, you've touched on that Vaishnava Aparad part. I think that's something which kind of keeps me thinking sometimes. Question I have there is, you mentioned that when there is an abominable action, right?
Yes.
We should do there are two things to be careful about. Is one, to correct the action is important, because then I think you're doing the wrong thing again if you're not fixing it, right? Secondly, the part says that you should not offend the devotee. Offending the devotee is kind of interesting one, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, because one thing is we can do our best not to offend the devotee, right? But then the second thing is how they feel about it. And it depends on their growth in Krishna consciousness, I would assume. Forgiveness may not be that easy for them. Could be other factors, right? So in that case, how can we handle that part? Should we just go to Krishna and, just say, I tried my best, please, I didn't mean to offend, please support, help, whatever? I mean, how do we navigate the second aspect of how, we can't directly manage to correct them, their feelings, but yet we don't want to affect their feelings. How do we balance that? Wanted to get your thoughts.
Yes. So that's a very good point, and because we may be even very soft, especially like in management, this happens when someone's very soft and the other person just starts to cry, and they take it so in the opposite way and all these things. My Guru Maharaj said that offending devotees means if we are motivated by, like real offense, serious offense means if we are motivated by envy. And that's why we are behaving in them in the way that they are. If we are trying to communicate, express ourselves, and our motivation is not envy, and we're not trying to hurt the other devotee, but help ourselves and them through that conversation, trying to have like an honest discussion where we're actually taking the initiative to try to solve something, to free some emotions in the hearts that is causing a distance, then that can actually be humility, even though temporarily it's like that. And the other devotee may never forgive us, and because we ended up doing a mistake in the wrong place, but eventually they will, if we are coming in from the right place in the heart. So so that's one point. The second is that we also have to see if it is our adhikar to correct the devotee. So in other words, the correction itself may not be our lot. It needs to be corrected, but we have to find someone else to correct it, because we're not in that senior position where they will hear. Right? We're not in that position. So we have to find someone else. The problem with that is that then we go to some senior devotee, like a guru or sannyasi, and then we complain, then we're complaining, right? And it's like we're complaining rather than trying to solve it. So it's very difficult. And that's why to reach Krishna, it's not easy. It's just, it's a razor's edge, like Prabhupada said. So practice makes a person perfect. We make mistakes and then realize, okay, next time I could approach it like this. I could say it even more softly. You're helping the person. You're trying to tell them the right thing. I was just recently experiencing this in my life. Sharing the right thing with the person, and that person took it wrong. And what can you do? You'll just have to, next time, I'm going to be even softer, or not like this, and because my experiences are with my Guru Maharaj, he's the person I associated with. That's why I quote, but they're all like this. But my own Guru Maharaj, he was like that. Like he could get something across in such a gentle way that is amazing. It's like he was so gentle, yet he would get it across, and with so much purity. And the key thing was the purity there. And that's where the personal practice came in. That, well, okay, if I'm going to correct a situation, if I'm going to help, am I practicing? Is my sadhana there? Is my intention there? Is my effort there? Yeah. So yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. Yeah.
That's a tricky one, certainly. But thank you for clarifying. I think you brought out some good aspects. Do you have the seniority in a way? Are you devoted enough? And secondly, I think that's a very important point, because we can be full of pride in our own ways without knowing it subtly. But God does know what we are feeling in our heart, right? You think He'll account for that, certainly, like if we didn't really mean it
Yes.
to go against them. So
And that's
we
why
misunderstood it. So I think that should help, right?
yeah, therefore the scriptures say Bhavagrihi Janardana, that Krishna is Bhavagrihi Janardana, meaning he knows the intention in our heart. Ultimately, he's the judge. What was the intention of this person? On the other hand, the response that the other devotee feels is our responsibility. Krishna doesn't just give us a free ride if our intention is right. Thank you. I was going to actually add that, and then I forgot in answering the question. It's not just that, because you have the famous pastime of Rupa Goswami, where one time he was in ecstasy, and in his ecstasy, he started laughing. And there was a hunchback Brahmana who was walking by, and that Brahmana thought that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. When in fact, Rupa Goswami, he wasn't even aware of the Brahmana. He was laughing at some Krishna's pastimes. And the Brahmana became offended. He became hurt that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. And right at that moment, Rupa Goswami's meditation broke. He was meditating he was like in Krishna's pastimes at that time, but it broke. And Rupa Goswami could understand that the only reason this could break is because I offended a devotee. Though he didn't offend, but he offended. And so then he tries to figure out who got offended. and he finds out that this Brahman was walking by and he thought he was laughing at him. So then he clears it up with the devotee. So Sridhar Maharaj, the ISKCON Sridhar Maharaj, our guru in our movement, he said that in Vaishnav dealings, in Vaishnav offenses and these things, he says even if we are right, we are wrong, right? So even if our point is right, but if the other person gets offended, we're still wrong to some degree at least. Not as much as if we're inspired by envy, we're still wrong because part of our challenge is to somehow keep the other devotee happy. It may not be possible. That's why it's we're all on the path, we're all struggling, but it's our challenge.
This helps a lot. Thank you very much, Prabhu. This helps
Thank you.
clarify a lot. Thank you. Very helpful.
With a nice question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Om.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam Vishwa Bhaji Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I had a question resulting the questions that you gave for the NOD. So one of the questions I may have missed it. I was not paying attention. I had to go there. So one of the questions from the NOD, the study guide and the question list you gave us was, what are the 3 ways to receive the mercy?
For Bhava Bhakti?
No, yeah, it was in the 16th or 17th chapter.
Yes. So the 3 ways were mercy of a devotee, mercy of Krishna, and past life.
So, but it was past how to receive mercy.
Oh, okay. This is a different question.
Yeah, because I already put that, and it was already a question that what you
Okay,
did.
so you already put that one. Yeah, I would need context for this one. Mercy for what? Divya Bhakti Mataji, you can tell her.
Hare Krishna, yes, the question that, or the answer for that is, it's on page 133 of the book that I have anyways. It's simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes. It, Srila Prabhupada lists it, or Srila Rupa Goswami lists it in the chapter. Krishna.
We get mercy, right? By these 3 things. Yes, so devotee, but just by glancing. Yeah, last time we covered that, I remember. Yes. Wonderful. So you got the answer.
Thank you, Prabhuji Mataji.
Thank you. And so nice you're doing the homework. Thank you. Hari Priya, please conclude us.
Yeah, I was not able to write much today, but yeah. So we can see that how one who would be on the stage of Bhava could do anything for Krishna. Like you gave the example of sometimes such people even don't sleep. And the example of Guru Maharaj, that even in the best resources he had, still he did not sleep. He chanted, and that was only and that was the only thing that made him happy. And then you told some things, some definitions of some words. So avyarta kaltamam means never waste time. Shanti means tolerance and patience. Virakti means indifference. Manasunyata means pridelessness. Asha Bandha means faith and trust on Krishna. Samutta Kantha means eager for bhakti. Namagana Sadaruchi means attraction for Mahamantra. Asha Khatistad Gunakhyana means addiction to glorify Krishna's qualities. Um, Praktistad Vasati Sthale means uh, attachment for living in the dham. And you gave some examples for them. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. You always summarize so nicely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Devanshi Mataji, thank you for joining. Very nice to have you. Nice picture with your 2 daughters.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. It's so wonderful you mentioned about Vrindavan Dham, and I'm listening to this from Dham and Kanan Swami's sweeties. It's just wonderful. The mercy is to the next level. So thank you for an amazing class and all the devotees and questions. It's
Please send
amazing.
blessings from there. Please send
Definitely. Yeah, I have no qualification, but I'm definitely praying and just hoping for everyone's like better future. But thank you, Prabhu. Amazing class.
Thank you for your association.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank
Hare
you.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.